is Davida, and I wanted to make a channel intro video. I have been thinking about making a YouTube channel for a really long time. I watch all kinds of YouTube videos basically daily and have for a number of years, and so much of my intellectual and spiritual pursuits have been really assisted by this amazing resource. I feel really compelled to add my voice to the conversation. So I thought I would just introduce myself. I'm a witch. I consider myself a witch that has really been practicing in some form or another since very young childhood. But only in the last few years have I kind of really taken on that moniker and started to explore more formal schools of thought and practices. I was born and raised in the Pacific Northwest. I'm a certified herbalist. I started studying herbalism, constitutional medicine, and ethnobotany about 4 years ago. So I do have a practice, and I have begun to offer my services as a certified herbalist and also as a guide for those looking to connect with plant spirit. Plants are just such an amazing bridge for us people to really access a really different kind of consciousness than we, especially in the Western world, are used to. So I think it's a great balancing factor, and I think it's incredibly relevant for our times that we're living in right now. Really, really helpful. So around the same time that I started studying herbalism, I also became really interested in a lot of sort of multidisciplinary studies in the fields of astrology and astrotheology, alternative history and prehistory, mythology. I've studied world religions, both formally and through self-study, and I'm really interested in the fields of consciousness. My whole life I've essentially been an animist, so that's my perspective on interrelating with spirit, and I definitely intend to get way more in depth in that. I'm really interested in healing. I have a personal history of trauma, both like personal trauma from family of origin, in terms of mental illness, and intergenerational trauma as well. I was raised in a Jewish household in what was called loosely renewal Judaism. So there were a lot of pagan and Buddhist influences, and so I was raised by pagans and also queer people, queer women. So I myself am a second generation queer person. I am a non-binary person, and gender is something that I find really fascinating, honestly kind of confusing, and I have a lot to say about it. So if that's something that interests you or that's relevant to you and your practice, that might be something that we can relate about, and I would love to hear your feelings or thoughts on that. So I'm really interested in resources and archetypes and just threads that are woven through our shared magical history and history in general that talk about gender, and especially kind of queering gender. I am a person who identifies as mixed race. I have mixed race heritage, but I also, most of the time, especially in this part of the world where I live, I'm regarded as white. And so I actively commit myself to using that white passing privilege to dismantle supremacy, white supremacy, and racism in the minds of all other white passing people. And I definitely recognize my responsibility in that, in my community, in my family, in my everyday life, and in any place where I share my voice. So on this channel, that is definitely going to be relevant to discussions that I'm interested in having. I'm a voracious reader. I love books. I love stories in general. I love movies and television. And so definitely gonna nerd out on that stuff. Symbolism and folklore and that kind of stuff has always been really fascinating to me. I have a brain which does think in language, and there are ways in which I am neuroatypical, but I generally had a pretty easy time and have a pretty easy time learning through language, which I recognize as a privilege as well, considering that a lot of our education is oriented towards that. And so I'm fascinated by neurodivergence, and I think that we're at the beginning of a revolution in our understanding of that, along with so many other things. And I'm just really excited about the times that we live in. I definitely am going to be talking a lot about Jewish magic, queer magic, plant and earth-based magic. I've been studying tarot for 2 years now. I have always been a kitchen witch, and cooking, medicine making is really, really close to my heart. It's one of my favorite things to do, and it's something that I've really cultivated as a skill and as honestly a coping mechanism from the time I was really little. So I love sharing recipes. I am what maybe would be considered an eclectic witch, or more recently I've kind of come to identify as a chaos witch. Pop culture has always been really accessible and easily understandable for me in terms of its relevance to kind of our larger cultural iconography, which is largely how I kind of innately have related to spirit and spirits in general. I really want to come home and create this home base, this channel, as a place that's centered around healing, divination, ancestor work, meditation, plant alchemy or spagyrics. All of these things interest me. So I'm going to have a lot of videos about herbalism, about books. I'll have book review videos, book collections, lots of stuff about food and nutrition, permaculture, and both ritual and visionary magic. So yeah, I hope that some of that sounds interesting to you. So go ahead and look down below. I have an Instagram, a Tumblr, a website. I also have a blog, and I will definitely link all of those. And I will be back really soon with some more videos. Thanks so much. Blessings to you.